Hey everyone, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with a podcast of director, writer Seth Ferranti. A little bit about him, what he did. He's done a lot. A lot of his feats have been featured in Diva, Vice, Penthouse, the Washington Post, everything. How you doing, Seth? Welcome to the show.
Dude, I'm all right, man. Thank you. Yeah, man. I write, man. I write a lot. I started writing in prison. I've continued writing on the street. Now I've moved into documentaries. Yeah, whatever. That's what a lot of people say. I've done a lot of stuff. I mean, it's not even talking about my life before. I feel like I've lived, a whole bunch of lives, but at the same time, you can only be who you are.
Yeah. When take us back to I think you were on Vice's I Was a Teenage Felon. Take us back on to those years back in the day, how you were doing what you were doing, how you wound up on the U.S. Marshals top 15 most wanted list. Take us back to the beginning.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it goes back to when I was 13. I first smoked weed when I was 13, and I don't know, I was a military brat. I moved around a lot, so I always felt like I was searching for something. I was looking for something. I was trying to fill this void. And when I smoked marijuana and then I started doing psychedelics, it kind of, filled this void, man. It made me look at things different, and, expanded my mind. So I've always been of the nature that, like cannabis and psychedelics are medicinal, spiritual, therapeutical drugs. That's always been my thing. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say I didn't make money off it. The money was nice too. So I'm not going to, BS anybody and say that wasn't a part of it. But it was like a twofold thing for me, and the other thing that kind of was all into it was I was like into this outlaw thing, like, no pictures, no phone number, you can't be tracked. Some people say criminal, but to me, I was never a criminal. I didn't carry a gun. I didn't beat people up. I didn't shoot people. I didn't intimidate people. I sold mind altering drugs. I supplied mind altering drugs. So I had this belief from early on, and I was partaking in all this type of stuff, and eventually, because of the people I knew, the contacts I had, I could start selling it. And I mean, this started probably when I was like, whatever, 15, 16. And by the time I was 19, 20, I was supplying, 15 colleges in 5 states with LSD and cannabis,
Yeah.
But still, I tell people, I was in the feds. I did 21 years in the feds. I was, in the big scheme of things for a teenager, I mean, I was making good money. I could profit like 20 grand in a month, depending on how much I moved that month.
That's good money
So
now.
yeah, so I could make money, so I was making good money at 17, 18, 19-year old. But it's not like I wasn't Pablo Escobar or John Gotti. A lot of times when you get these Fed cases, they try to make each new case like, like I'm the John Gotti of the suburbs, which was BS because in the big scheme of things, I was a very small player. It's just because my age or maybe where I was from, because I was in an upper middle class, neighborhood. So they try to make, this big deal about it or whatever. And yeah, I ended up, I got cracked in the head. Um, Obviously I had some money. I didn't want to face some music. I wasn't trying to face some music. I had the opportunity. I could have like ratted dudes out and probably did a couple years. I didn't go that route, so but I wasn't trying to go to trial either, and get cracked in the head and get, God knows how many years. So I did what I thought was smart at the time. I don't know, maybe sometimes I think it's smart, sometimes not, but I took off. I became a fugitive. For some reason, I'm still not sure, they made me top 15 most wanted fugitive for the U.S. Marshals list. Like, I don't know, maybe because I was like I embarrassed them, because I was like some young kid from the suburbs, and I took off, and they felt like I tricked them, or
Yeah.
whatever, or they felt I should have testified against people that like, they thought I was going to make cases for them, and I didn't. I don't know. I don't know their thinking, but I'm not. That's federal law enforcement and the prosecutors, so I don't know. I think they just want to win cases. So like if they lose, then that's a black mark on their record, and they don't like you.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. When you were supplying LSD and weed to all these colleges, what years was that? Was it because I feel like
Shit,
weed
like
is
80, 80, 88, 89.
Okay,
90, 91.
so
Yeah.
definitely not nearly as accepted. For
Yeah.
the Was that the only things you those weed and LSD? Because I love LSD, but weed it kind of doesn't really do anything for me.
I mean, I get mushrooms, sometimes get mushrooms, like I had mescaline, every now and then you can get some mescaline. I got a crazy mescaline story. So like
Oh,
you know,
tell us that.
I've always seen mescaline like it looks like these little, almost like little clear bubbles. You know what I'm saying? And so one time I got an ounce from this dude. It was actually a Mexican dude. And he brought it to me. He's like, man, I'm gonna give you this meth. He's like, man, the fucking white people are gonna go crazy about this shit. He goes, college, you're gonna love this shit, right? So he gave it to me, and he gave it to me an ounce, and I started showing people, but they were looking at it like they didn't know what it was, and I'm like, this is meth, and they were like, no, they were like, we want chocolate mess, we want chocolate mess, we don't want mescaline, we want chocolate mescaline, and I was like, I got this clear shit. I'm like, I don't. So I go back to the dude, right? And I'm like, man, they said they want chocolate mess, bro. I can't sell this shit. And he looks at me and he's like, man, he goes, just go to the store, SA. He goes, get some fucking Nestle's quick. He goes, put that shit in there. He goes, you got chocolate mess. So I did that and I took it back and I sold out. So it just,
Did
you know what I'm
anyone know
saying?
that you were doing that outside the guy that you got it from?
I mean, yeah, not at the time. No, not at the time. But now, I've told this story a couple times, not a lot, but
That's great.
yeah, pretty funny. It's all like perception, but it's the same thing, because I've always been in contact with a lot of marijuana growers, and forever, and it's funny because they tell stories like, they can have like one strain and they take it out to the guy, the buyer, and the buyer's like, oh, I don't like this, so they take the same weed, they put it in a different bag and bring it out and say it's a different strain, and the dude loves it. It's just funny, people's perceptions and what they think, and just kind of, even in the drug world.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen I got into Tulsa King. Have you seen that on Paramount?
Mm-mm-mm.
Sylvester Stallone plays this like old school gangster from New York. He gets out of prison after like 30 years, and he's like, "Okay, guys, for the family, where do you want me?" He's like, "All right, we're gonna send you out to Tulsa, Oklahoma." He's like, "You're sending me away." So he goes out there and he gets a crew together, and he like says like, "Hey, I'm not sending y'all money anymore. This is my crew. This is my town. This is my place." And it's freaking awesome. It's
Oh
cool. Did
yeah,
you
no,
ever
I never knew that. What's it? It's called Tulsa.
Tulsa King?
Uncle.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah,
on
yeah. I'm
Paramount.
gonna check that out.
It's when you were in, like, was there a time before you started writing? Was there a time where you're like, I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna make a butt ton of money, but I'm gonna be smart. I'm gonna get different passports, different IDs, different this way. Yeah, any thoughts of doing that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I had thoughts of that for a long time, because when I get caught, I had like 20 something different IDs. I had like some passports. I was really, my goal was to make like $250,000 cash, and I was gonna get out of the country, but I never came close to that goal. But as a fugitive, or really even before, so yeah, so I've thought of that, man, but I don't know. It's to me, I kind of look at it like a challenge. Like, could I do all that stuff? Because I did all that stuff. I had that. I was an expert in that ID stuff. I was like an expert, dude. My ID game was on point. I got it all from like real DMVs and stuff like that. I had it down, bro. Like I was a master of that shit, and
Did
I learned
you
all that just from reading books about it. They had all these books from Lou Panic's Press and Paladin Press called like Paper Tripping in the USA. That's what they call it. They call it paper tripping, right? Like when
yeah,
you change IDs and stuff. Reborn in the USA. Understanding U.S. identifying documents. Like I had all, and some were like government manuals, and I like read all these books. That's how I learned to do that. So sometimes I think like because I mean it's a lot more advanced technology today.
yeah,
The computers are a lot bigger, so they know a lot more, or they can dig deeper. But
yeah.
it's a challenge. I think you can still do it today, pretty much the same way I did it. I think.
And somebody tried to do that in. I was in New Jersey, so I was former Air Force, and there was this guy that had a couple of passports. He had a couple like passport making like machines in his carry-on, or not in his carry-on, in his checked luggage. And he was about to go to Germany, and he was about to go, and I don't know where he was going to go from Germany, but it was clear he was about to go do like some really bad things. It wasn't just like, oh, hey, let's do this for X, Y, and Z. Like it was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to sell to the other side.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so it just seems extremely like the punishment for that. I don't think it's worth it. But there is, I guess, if you can do it, if you could pull it off, that type of thing would cost you, like you said, hundreds of thousands. So you could probably make a really good living. if you want to do that.
Yeah. No, but the only thing back then, so like I got charges for fake ID, dude, but my charges are like fraudulent use of ID. Like back then in the early 90s, they didn't even have identity theft. It wasn't a charge.
Oh, that's so strange.
Yeah, it wasn't until like everything went online. Because my case is like pre-internet.
Yeah.
Internet's like 96. I was in jail before the internet. So that's like when in 96. So it was called fraudulent use of ID. Really, back then, you could have another ID in somebody else's name, and if you weren't using it for criminal or fraudulent purposes, they couldn't do shit, bro. That's why they invented that identity theft. Like you're stealing somebody's.
Yeah.
They made it a crime.
So
Because
now your
people,
crime
yeah.
would have got you a lot more years if it was done today.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah, definitely. But I still think you can still do it, man. It's all basically paperwork and pushing it through the system. I mean, I look at the people that are working these jobs in the DMV. I mean, what are they making? 12,
You
15,
you could
20
buy
bucks an
anything.
hour.
Yeah.
Like I say, dude, they don't care. They're just punching stuff. And as long as, when you go in and you have those documents, that they're real documents, but they're not who you are. As long as you are who you say you are. And if you have the documents to back it up, I mean, come on, man. The only
Yeah.
person that can throw you off is you. Especially when I was a kid, it was a lot easier because I was a kid. I think the biggest challenge now, because I'm older, so if I did want to do it, how do I explain all these years of not having an identity? When
Yeah.
you're like 20, you can be like, oh, my dad was in the service. I was overseas. I just came back.
Yeah. It's a good point.
But how do I explain all these years? But I think I can still figure something out. I don't know. It's kind of challenging to me. Not like I would do it or whatever. I'm not planning on going on the road. I like my life now.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm about to put a bunch of stuff out that's gonna allow me to put a bunch of more stuff out, and that's what I'm at. I'm just about to work now. That's kind of I want to tell these stories, these stories that have touched my life, these stories that I have been involved with. I want to give these retrospective histories because everybody wants to paint histories, especially like in the war on drugs, and they want to slant it this way or they want to slant it that way. So I'm going to slant all my stuff is going to be slanted the counterculture way because that's how I came up. That's who I am. So, I'm giving my slant. Everybody else wants to give their slant. Okay, here's my slant.
You've had speaking of stuff that you've done, prison stories, street legends, Supreme. You've done a lot. What do you think has been your most important work so far, and why?
Oh, definitely White Boy. I mean, White Boy, the documentary White Boy, what I wrote and produced with Transition
Yeah.
Studios and director, executive producer Sean Reck. Um, I mean, we helped get a man out of prison.
Yeah.
Not like that film was a solely cause. There was a lot of people working to get out of prison, but we helped. We aided that effort, and we told his story. We broke it down in ways that had never been broken down before. And kind of put it in the public's face to show people. Because pre-pandemic, everybody talked about, corruption in America, law enforcement, police corruption, political. It was always kind of talked about it, but it was kind of skirted around. Nobody really wanted to look at it or address it. And then kind of the pandemic, everything kind of slowed down and we started looking at different things. We started looking at the police shooting men of color. Why
Yeah.
does this happen? So why are white police always shooting black and brown people, black and brown men? Why? So we started looking at that, in the Black Lives Movement thing kind of went international.
Yeah.
But as we started looking at these and as an Americans realizing, hey, well, this stuff does go on because a lot of people they're in their little cocoons. We don't want to worry about this. That's over there. It doesn't bother me. But we can't be like this. It's all America. We're all one people, even though we're different colors, different whatever. But
There's a
I
bit of
think
the acid coming out.
yeah, I think
We're
when
all
it got
one.
to that point, right, then we could put out something like White Boy and we could show all those rabbit holes and we could show all the levels of corruption and how far, and people actually believed it. You know what I'm saying? Because their eyes were kind of open. I don't know. Maybe people are all going back now, but I don't know. I kind of like the pandemic because it slowed down everything, and the film blew up. We kind of had the Tiger King effect, but definitely White Boy is the biggest, most monumental thing. I've been involved with. In regards, to entertainment so
The
far.
pandemic, yeah, the pandemic really made people look inward, like at themselves, and it was a lot of people that kept busy, whether it was going out with friends at like a dart league or green beer or just working, and then suddenly they don't have to work and they have to be alone with themselves for the first time. Obviously, being away for a while, you got to spend a lot of time by yourself to look inward. Um, when you were talking about, hey, we're all like one people, in America, regardless of color, how much of that was like your natural thoughts, and how much of that was from years of taking LSD? Because for me, it always wants to make me love people. It always wants to make me just like have a good time with friends.
No, I think it's a combination. It's a combination of how I was, combination of taking the LSD, but it's also a combination of being in prison, bro. Because when you're in prison, you see, I mean, they pit the races against each other. They pit groups against each other, and it's on a real small scale, so you can see it easier.
No,
And like a lot of these places were, like most of the guards are white, so it's like, oh, just because my skin color, like I get a pass or I get entitlement, or they'll let me know privy to stuff. So once you see this stuff and you see it in action, just on a small scale, in like a prison with maybe like 1,200 people, and you can really see these dynamics in action, and then you look at it, it's the same shit they do out here, bro. So it's like, that's why some of the smartest gang leaders I've been around are the ones that have stepped up, and they'd be like, why are we fighting each other? We're not the enemy, but
no,
they keep you in prison. They keep you fighting over a scarcity of resources.
no.
That's what it's about. It's resources, man. Everybody wants resources, right? So there's a scarcity of resources. So they pit the different gangs and ethnic groups against each other to control these resources. They do the same thing out here, bro. It's just a bigger piece of the pie.
It's a good
You
point.
know what I'm saying? Because you go down to some areas, like I did that film Nightlife, right? In North St. Louis, right? And dude, it's cutthroat down there. There's no resources, man. Why do you think it's cutthroat? Why do you think a life is worth like nothing? Because there's no resources. We have the resources in this country to put. We put them up in other countries all the time. They give all billions of dollars here, millions. So I mean, the resources are there. It's just the elite. A lot of people think white when you say elite, but I'm white and I'm not the fucking elite. You know what I'm saying? So the elite, these people at the top of the top of the food chain, I mean, they basically can do whatever they want and control everything. And the reason they keep their power is they keep everybody under them fighting for fucking scraps.
When you say elite, are you thinking of the 1%? Are you thinking of politicians? Are you thinking of royalty?
Uh, I mean, it starts with the 1%, but then who's the people that the 1% are giving campaign contributions to?
That's a good point. Yeah. You
Those are their puppets.
There's been a broadening gap between the 1% and everyone else, and there's obviously a lot of political strife about that. But on, to play devil's advocate, on the flip side, that rising tide does raise all ships. And I think that to be poor now in 2023 is a lot better than it was to be poor in like 89. And I think
Oh
that,
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, there's more money, but still, look, check this out. In the '80s, we used to say the top 10% had all the money, and
oh,
now it's widely known that it's 1%. So how since okay, so I'm 52. So in 30 years, dude, or well, basically, whatever, 40 years, 35 years, how has it gone from 10% to 1%? That's what's crazy.
it's changed a lot. I
Yeah, they
don't,
fucking the biggest people with money ate up all the smaller people with money. That's what they do. And if you get big enough where you're going to threaten them, they're going to eat you up. They're not going to eat you up. They're going to have somebody make a case on you. It's crazy.
so what is the answer? Is it love? Is it revolution?
I don't know. My answer is I make films about this shit. That's my answer. I mean, I can't say I know the answer. I mean, it's a fucked up world. We all just gotta live in it and make our way. Everything be perfect. I mean, we're humans. We're horrible. We make mistakes. People get into greed, lust. I mean, these are all the oldest sins. For whatever that we're still, falling prone to. So I don't know what the answer. It's a human fallacy, I guess. But my answer is, I like to expose stuff. I like to show people stuff. I like to do this retrospective history stuff, but do it slanted in my angle, my bias.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not the government, not the anti. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. People can call it keeping it real. Whatever. I mean, I don't say none of that. I don't really call it keeping it real, OG stuff, whatever. That's for other people to say or decide. But I'm going to give. This is my history, my interpretation. So that's basically what my work is. Same like all my books, like Supreme Team, Prison Stories. It's all my interpretation through my lens. and regurgitated back out to the world. But a lot of these are stories that I heard like when I was in there, and I was like, man,
Yeah.
like hearing
So,
about all the gangsters. When gangster rap became real big in the mid-90s, and you're like, man, who's this dude, Supreme? And they're like, oh, he's over on C Block. I'm like, what? I'm like, that Supreme is the one you're talking about? They're like, yeah. I'm like, damn. And then I was amazed that there were no books on these dudes. So I decided I'm going to write the books.
yeah. So you almost had like an unlimited, endlessly renewable source of content that you could create, and you
Oh,
have
yeah,
now.
definitely for the crime stuff. Yeah, for the crime. I mean, being in prison, look, I could be writing about Harlem. Maybe I'm not with the main dudes in Harlem, but there was a dude down the block. He's from Harlem. He knew those dudes. He'll talk to me. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So, yeah, for that stuff, yeah, especially because I was on the East Coast too. So I was like right in the middle of all the people that were involved in that East Coast,
yeah.
crack era rap stuff.
The Me and Punch is going to come to New York Comic Con this year. I know you're kind of in the middle of developing Dope Men, which we'll get to in a minute. Would you be able to come to New York Comic Con?
Yeah, I know he wants me to go, man. I'm not going to say no, but I got another little stipulation because I'm actually on probation right now until
Okay.
December 31st with the state of Missouri. I got popped with like 50 pounds of weed like 3 years ago, and yeah, and ended up with probation. Hey, told him I would take him to trial, right?
How did you do that? How'd you? All right. So first, tell the story like why you had 50 pounds of weight. Was that like all for you? You're just buying in bulk?
Yeah,
Families?
I mean, whatever. I mean, I hustle, man. I hustle, so I'm not going to get into specifics. Whatever. I
That's
had
fine.
it.
That's fine.
I was trying to turn it into money.
And then, okay, so how'd you get that down to just probation?
Well, first year they offered me 10. They offered me a 10-year plea. I was like, fuck you. I'm not going back. I mean, this is the time, dude. I was growing weed in my house medically
Yeah,
when all this shit happened. You know what I'm saying? I'm fighting this case and I'm growing weed legally, medically.
yeah,
Right? So they're like 10 years. I'm like, fuck you. I'm not going back to jail for weed in fucking like 2020. I go, you got me fucked up.
yeah.
And then they came back and then they gave me like a 5-year plea. And I was like, man, fuck that. I'm not doing 5 years. And I said, fuck it, go to trial. And then we got ready to go to trial. And 2 weeks before the trial, they came. Really, I don't think, and my lawyer even said it, they had some problems with the warrant. I think they lied on the warrant. We might have been able to get the whole thing thrown out. Yeah,
Yeah.
they exaggerated my criminal history to get the warrant to the judge. But they were denying us. We were trying to get this, it's called an application for the warrant where they put all this stuff.
Yeah.
So they were denying us the application to the warrant. So, we could have probably got it in discovery, but then, too, it was a matter too, I was going to have to come up with another 20 grand to go to trial. So,
Oh, yeah, that
so
sucks.
sometimes if you don't got the money, you got to cut your losses, or if you want to spend the money on something else.
But I don't think I've ever seen that much. 50 pounds of weed is so much. That must have been amazing. So anyway, like I said, you had an endless renewable content that you could have created just from the context that you have. And again, I'd totally love to meet you, obviously, when the probation's over. But tell us about the new content. Tell us about Dope Men.
Yeah, so Dope Man, it's about America's first drug cartel. So it goes all the way back to the 20s. And it looks like before the mob even formed as we know it today, like the commission and all that stuff, because that didn't happen until like 1930, 1931 or something. So it's going back to the early days when, Prohibition made all these dudes players. A lot of these dudes were just like corner street thugs, extorting businesses in their local area, taking hits or whatever. Prohibition, when they started making the money for Prohibition, put organized crime on the map, gave them access to politicians, gave them access to entertainers. So it changed the whole landscape. So it's weird because if you look at it, at first it was like Irish, Jewish, and Italian were all the mobsters, like all the 20s, like Arnold Rothstein, Jewish, and then, Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel. But like Jack Lake's Diamond was a big Irish gangster. Then, you had the dudes like Lucky Luciano, Al Capone, stuff like that, the Italians. But what I'm trying to show in this is that, the mob before Prohibition even ended, they were already looking for because they knew it wasn't going to last. So they were already looking for their next source of income, and they found heroin. And so, all this thing like The Godfather and all this thing like the mob, they don't sell dope. It's been their number one earner since the jump. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what this shows. And this is going to be a 3-part series. So the first one covers kind of like the 20s to the 40s. You know, kind of goes from like Arnold Rothstein, you know, Jack Lake's Diamond, and it also looks at Harry Anslinger, who was the big uh, crusader, anti-drug crusader. He formed the Bureau. He was like a failed prohibition agent, and he formed the Bureau of Narcotics. That was a predecessor to the DEA, like in 1931 or something, and he became like the drug czar. And it's crazy because all this dude, and this was like some dude like he grew up in Pennsylvania and like worked the railroads and stuff. So he had like these like corporate Puritan kind of white people values. You know, like if you look at the drug war, and how would you kind of describe those values, like, you know, who they're targeting and stuff like this. So, you know, 100 years ago, this dude Harry Anslinger, he was around for like 50 something years, right, in
Yeah.
government. He set the tone for the drug war, dude. They used like all his ideals, everything he set back in place. You know, there's a movie about he was Harry Anslinger. He's the one who went after Billie Holiday, you know, the jazz singer
Yeah.
who was basically a heroin addict.
Yeah. He wrote that
And he was
song.
going, yeah, he was going after her, like trying to bust her. Like this dude was just like crazy.
Have you heard that song Gloomy Sunday?
I don't know. I probably heard it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't recall it, but I'm sure I heard it.
It was the one that Billie Holiday had wrote, and it was basically like a suicide note. Or a
Yeah.
lot of other people had written down the lyrics after, or, you know, right before they had committed suicide. It was really, really strange. I guess that was like the drugs. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But this dude, Harry Anslinger, I mean, he was just a whack job. You know what I'm saying? Racist ass fucking whack job, you know, persecuting fucking dope smokers. You know, but it's really set this country back 100 years, you know, because, dude, if you look at history before like the 20s, if you look at history, the pharmaceutical companies and the plastic companies both came online, you know, like in the early 1900s, right? That was a result of, you know, like I don't know if you know history, like they talk about the robber barons, the industrials, you know, like names like the Rockefellers and all these big names that
Yeah.
had all the factories and were, you know, let people's arms get cut off and, you know, child labor and all types of stuff. So when that backlashed on them, they had to find, they already had the money, but they're like, okay, we can't make money off this. There's all this public eye creep. So they went into the plastic and they went into the pharmaceutical companies. That's when they formed, right?
The Big Pharma's still out there today. Big
So look,
Pharma's.
now 100 years later, you know, with this drug war, you know, motherfuckers dying of fentanyl all day. Our ocean's full of plastic. You know, all off of greed. And like I say, I like capitalism. I'm American. I like this country. This is one of the only countries that you can actually come to. I know people from different countries. They say, well, you can do in America, you can't do in other countries. Like getting property and stuff. It's hard to get property in other countries,
Yeah.
even if you got money. You know what I'm saying? So America's like we're one of the only places where you can, you know, come from nothing and become something. You know, so I'll give it that. But just the last 100 years, dude, we have been worked by the dark side of capitalism, where the motherfuckers with all the money have controlled it the whole time and found new, different ways to control it and warped public opinion and everything. That's why we're at where we are today.
As you gain more and more popularity, as you become more and more wealthy, how do you think you will prevent yourself from crossing that line? Like, obviously, just being in the 1% doesn't mean you're bad, but being the 1% and then contributing to things that maybe you don't
Well,
think.
dude, I think we can both honestly say any of us normal people, we're never going to be in the 1%, bro. We're never going to make that. You know, even if I have a super successful film career, maybe I'll be like a millionaire. I'm not never going to be a billionaire.
Billions
It's
a lot.
just, you know, it's just, well, that's the 1%. You know, I'm never going to be Elon Musk or any of these other dudes, but you know, and not to say Elon Musk or some, you know, some of these dudes have their own attitude. I think Elon Musk is kind of a wild card. You know, maybe some people don't like what he's doing, but maybe he's disrupting stuff. I like people who disrupt stuff. But
Yeah.
you know, so I'm never gonna be that. But you know, I can say from being in prison, and I think this goes back how you say even like living now, it's easier even if you're poor. So I
Mhm.
think this goes into that. So living in prison for 21 years, like I was outside the matrix,
Yeah.
right? So look, now I'm a smart dude, bro. I can make shit. I make shit. I got a track record. People like my shit. You know, plug me back into the matrix. You know, but still, I realize what it is, and I'm going to use it, you know, for my own benefit and to tell the stories I want to tell.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, I'm not going to beat the matrix. How am I going to beat the matrix, man? Who's going to beat
Yeah.
that? Unless everybody in the whole world just decided to stand up simultaneously, how are we going to beat the matrix? I mean,
I
I don't
mean,
know.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
don't
that's
know. I don't
possible.
know. Yeah,
I get, have everyone take Lucy at the same time, and then we all love
yeah.
each other. Realize wars are
Maybe.
not
I mean,
smart.
that's what a lot of people I know, that's what they think. They think if everybody took if you dose the hell world with LSD, they think it would be a different place. I mean, you never know. That's in its other film series. I got Psychedelic Revolution. That's what we explore that. From the original hippies, like when they came out, and the Grateful Dead family and stuff like that. We explore like the whole kind of LSD history. So I don't know. That's a possibility, but I don't know. Can somebody make that happen? That's what they wanted to do in the '60s, and it still hasn't happened. They tried to make it happen, and the counterculture got pushed underground for 50 years.
Yeah, rough times. Well, I mean, I think it's easier now to spread awareness because you have things like, and it's not just like the internet. There's things on the internet like if you're into YouTube, there's stories like they're on YouTube, Facebook Reels, Instagram, TikTok is really great. You were talking about disruptive things, and you like things that are disruptive. I don't know if you collected anything when you were younger, whether it was baseball cards or Pogs or whatever, but there is a app called Vivi. I don't know if Punch has mentioned that to you, has he?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I
No,
get.
I collected baseball cards and comics.
Oh, okay, great.
No,
Yeah.
I was kidding.
So,
No, he's sending me stuff. He sends me stuff all the time, man. He's like, get this. He wants me to like do a story on it too. But if I can get the funding, I would.
how much funding would you need for it?
Shit. I mean, if we want to do something right, probably like 100, 150.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Um, I'm doing. I
And that
had
and
a
that and that would be without who's ever running it without even taking a paycheck. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
So I
I mean,
had
if the people running it want to take a paycheck, you probably have to be like around 200, 250.
yeah. No, that's fine. I did. Had a podcast last week with Darcy Donovan, who's doing a major motion picture next year. It was supposed to be this year, but it got delayed because of the SAG strike.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and long story short, yeah, I'll be. I have access to certain funding now, where they go and
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
need funding for this, and
No, me and Punch had discussed like doing a story of that VVA, like just the phenomenon of
yeah,
it happening, and where it's going to go. I mean,
we can.
because people do all like the big, um, I don't know. Is it VV is almost like NFTs, right? I mean, basically, right?
Yeah, they're
But it's
disruptive
just it's
because
just sanctioned. It's special because they got the sanction from all the big companies, right? That's what
that's a
makes it
big part of
special.
it. Yes, that's a big
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah,
The
so
other part of it
they're
is
really the only ones, Everybody, I mean, they basically did a licensing deal.
yeah, the licensing is extremely hard to do, but in general, like if you wanted to buy an NFT on OpenSea, it's a pain to do. Is you need a new thing called a MetaMask wallet. You need to have Ethereum. You need to some things aren't even on Ethereum.
Oh,
I
so
have to
they
be
got they got all types of regulations now, right?
it's just hard to do because it's technically speaking, it's very technically difficult, especially for like some older people that just
Yeah,
aren't with it. Vivi, just put in a credit card or PayPal, and you buy this thing called gems. One gem is equal to $1, and that's it. You buy it.
and you buy the
I've
different releases.
yeah,
Yeah,
but the
yeah. Punch sends me all the time. I think that shit looks cool as shit. I really haven't had the time or the funding to even dive into something like that because I've just been using all my resources to like I said, dude, I got 5 projects dropping, man, before the
yeah,
end of the year. Over 5 hours of content, man. So I've been working on this like the last 3 years. I'm just ready to be on the other side of it. But you got to do all these last minute checks, and then like anything, you have difficulty. I mean, we're working with these huge files, man. So like every time you export or try to transfer it or transfer it to a different format, it's like all types of glitches you got to worry about. And, so but we're learning. Like I say, I'm an independent studio, Outlaw Films. We're learning as we go. I mean, I had a good teacher. I learned from Sean Reck in Transition Studios. He, I worked with him on White Boy, and he kind of mentored me. So I took in everything, all the knowledge that I got from making that film, spending that 18 months, 2 years with him, training basically. Because yeah, he's definitely like my mentor in this game. Yeah, so it's just basically, man, I'm trying to put it all together and hustle it, and make it work. Not there yet, the wheels are spinning, man, but the wheels are gonna keep spinning, until
I
I get more of this stuff out and get some recognition, and get some hopefully accolades and hopefully, I mean, any artist, man, even like on a podcast like this, you just want people to watch, man. You just want people to like what you're doing. So I'm the same way.
we'll get So I don't want to say how to say this without like trying to pat myself on the back too much. I've been lucky to find companies before that were very undervalued and very disruptive. Put my weight behind it and financially worked out really well. The most recent thing is Vivi. They have a coin called Omi that will start to take off within the next 6 months. In a year, it should probably do a 10x. Not financial advice to everyone that's listening. And there'll be a lot of money to go around for it. If you want to help that, if you still haven't made that documentary by 2025, or if nobody's made that, I'll fund it. Like that's
All right. No, definitely. That's what me and Punch want to do. We talked about it, but it's just like a matter. Even we get like some initials, so we could do some initial filming. I think he wanted me to come into the Comic-Con last year and do some filming. He was trying to get me to come up.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I think
No,
he couldn't make it there.
Yeah, hopefully he can make it this year. I'm gonna talk to him. Yeah, because I'd like to come up there. I haven't been. When I first got out, I did a couple comic books. I did like some crime comics.
Oh, cool.
And I was doing all types of Comic Cons, and like they were giving me tables and let me do presentations and all types of shit. And I also had like this little film series that I did YouTube called Easter Bunny Assassin. This is like when I first got out, dude. Like the first 2 years I was out, and we got a little hype, but I don't know. We couldn't really find it. I think this stuff was like so cutting edge or so. I don't know. I just don't think the true crime in
I think we
comics.
lost
I
him.
don't know if that. Oh, can you hear me?
Hey, everyone. So it looks like Seth. Hmm. Hey guys. So I guess I don't know if it was my internet or his. I think he got disconnected. I'll go over and shoot him an email. Oh, there he is.
All right.
Sorry about
I just crashed it. You couldn't see me, so I crashed it and came back.
Okay, cool. We're here now. Yeah, the last year's Comic Con, I don't even think Punch went to. It's great to see that you've done a few comics and kind of know what it's about. I think Punch will be doing. Yeah, he was supposed to do the Stealing Manhattan movie later this year, but again, this
Yeah, I know that book. I know that book came out. Yeah, I know that's big for him.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't wait.
definitely. Yeah, but I don't know. I got to look into it. It's what is that? October?
Yeah, October 12th to the 15th.
All right. No, I can definitely let you know, and I'll talk to him too because I'd like to see him. I ain't seen him in a minute.
Yeah, he's been great. He got me an acting gig last year. He wants me in the Stealing Manhattan when that goes. So I'm pretty excited. He's a great dude, good friend.
Yeah, no, I like Punch, solid dude, man. If he's in your corner, that dude will work for you, man. He'll look out for you.
Yeah, he's already gotten me like outside of you. He's got a couple people on the podcast. So he's.
Oh yeah, he knows everybody, dude. Punch knows everybody.
So I know you said you only had about 40 minutes, but about 38. Any other thing you want to go over before we bounce?
No, I think somebody was asking about White Boy Rick or something. What?
Yeah, I mean, you had already gone over, I think, once or twice. So what's your feeling on White Boy Rick?
Yeah, hey, I mean, Rick is still my friend. I talk to Rick regularly. I mean, Rick did 32 years in prison for a nonviolent offense. I mean, he was persecuted. I mean, they took the kid when he was 14 and they made him informant and they pimped him out. So yeah, I like Rick, man. Rick is like the poster boy for what was wrong with the war on drugs, man. You know what I'm saying? Because and so look, and this is why I say, because look, okay, if they did it to him, and we know how racist it all is, the war on drugs is racist. So if they did it to him, a white dude, this got publicized. How many black and brown people did they do that same shit to that was never reported, or because of the communities of people never wanted to know that they were working as an informant, because they would have been, separated from their own people. So how many times has this happened, bro? So that's like, I just look at it the injustice. But I like Rick, man. Rick's been through a lot, man. Rick's carried, burdens, and he does charitable work. You know what I'm saying? He has a weed brand, but some of that, he's about helping people, man. Rick does a lot of stuff for, especially Detroit. That's where he's from.
Yeah.
Is he perfect? Nobody's perfect, man. We all have our fans, man. But Rick's a good dude who's been through a lot. He deserves to be celebrated, and people should look at his story as an example to see what our government is doing to people.
Yeah, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. But well, thank you so much for coming on. I'll talk to you off camera for 1 minute. I know you have to bounce, so I'll be quick. But everyone, thank you
All
for
right, cool.
joining. Everyone say bye to Dashi. Bye, Dashi.